Hey, welcome to Vote Talks with Chase Lindsey and Ashley Craven. I'm Chase.
Day. This is kind of an inaugural video podcast for us, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us and learn with us on this process too. But we thought this would be a great way to have weekly chats with everyone about things that are happening a little bit on a broader scale, but also here at our local community, and a chance for you to get to meet and get to know your local candidate. So one of the things we wanted to do was kind of just give you an introduction to me and why I'm running for office. So my name is Ashley Craven. I am a full-time project manager in the veterinary industry. I'm the mom of a third grade. My stepdaughter is in third grade, and my stepson is in fifth grade. And I have a 2-year-old toddler that is in preschool. So navigating all of the challenges of the blended family life. My stepkids attend Knox County schools at Hardin Valley, and my son is in preschool at Emory Valley. So I've had a lot of experience with navigating elementary school and the things that have been happening on that level here lately. And then Chase is my campaign manager for this adventure, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, hey, I've been working on campaigns the past couple of cycles now, and really that's kind of how Ashley and I got to know each other. I'm one of the vice chairs for the Anderson County Democratic Party and also over communications for the group. We pulled Ashley in, I guess a year and a half, 2 years ago now, and we kind of got to know each other there. So.
I got asked, do you know how to do the Twitter? And when I said yes, they were like, come join us.
Yeah. Well, and you've done a great job at it. And, really that kind of gets us into, how we know each other and jumping into, why you decided to run.
So I decided to run primarily because I'm not good at feeling helpless. And there were a lot of things happening at the state level that were having a big trickle down effect on the local community and on local schools and the students and the families. One of the biggest things was the third grade retention legislation that passed, and our family is living the results of that this year and the stresses of that test and the summer school requirements and all of the things that are having to go into those the consequences of that legislation that it seems like wasn't, I don't know if it wasn't thought out or if there was a lack of care behind it, but it was very frustrating, and it still is. And so I wanted to do something where I could channel my frustration into action. And school board is one of those positions that I think impacts so many people. When you want the best for your child and you're on the school board, you want the best for every child in the community. There's so much room for impact, and there are so many things that happen that affect the kids' lives. It affects the parents' lives. It's the day-to-day grind that I think often goes overlooked. And one of the things that I feel like is missing on the Oak Ridge School Board is the voice of a parent with elementary kids that are living those challenges day in and day out. We've got an excellent school board. We do. We have wonderful people making wonderful decisions for our kids, but we've got a couple of members that are ready to retire. And I think it's a great chance to add a new voice to the board that brings that experience to the forefront.
Well, and even with experience, I mean, everyone's frustrated, but the first question is going to be why you? Why'd you decide to run for school board?
So I have a couple of things that I think are some unique qualifications. One is I have a master's in mediation. So one of my strong suits and some training that I've had is specifically to get parties that are not aligned to sit down and be able to have conversations and reach agreements. So whether that be, between the school board and the city council, whether that be between, the school board and the superintendent, parents and teachers, anything where you've got parties that are not in alignment, being able to sit down and talk things out. I think it's amazing how often people will find they have more in common than they do disagreements. And it really allows you to reach solutions that are in everyone's best interest when you can have open communication. And I think that's one thing that my particular training and degree has set me up to be able to do. I come from a family of educators. My parents are teachers. My sisters are teachers, guidance counselors. Lots of branches of my family tree spread out in education across multiple states. And so I'm hearing the feedback of what their struggles are in the classroom, what their, testing struggles are as they are trying to advocate for their students, but also meet these state guidelines. And then I myself worked as a substitute teacher right after college. I was mostly in like kind of that middle school age group there. And just seeing the things that are so different today from even when I was in school, I do not envy these kids that go to school and have all of this online presence and this constant state of having to be on. And when I went to school, you got to come home, you got to kind of be done for the day. I feel like with cell phones and technology and the internet and social media, you're always on and there's always that connectivity. And I think being able to see, my kids as they are going through that, and also being aware of all the social media and stuff myself, I think I also have the ability to have a little bit of an understanding of what that's like and communicate with parents and teachers and kids about some of that.
Well, and you and I have talked a bunch about both of us coming from more rural school systems. I'm from West Tennessee, you're from East Tennessee. And that's been one thing that every time you talk about the Oak Ridge system and just the amount of difference between what you and I were probably raised in those school systems.
Yes. The conversations that I've had with the two board members that are retiring, with the Oak Ridge superintendent, I am blown away at the opportunities that Oak Ridge affords students in this community. It is very clear that the Board of Education and the City Council prioritize our schools, they prioritize our students. And I think that is absolutely fantastic. The amount of programs that are offered, even just last week or week before when they had the State of the Schools speech at kind of the lunch with the league that the League of Women Voters put on. The superintendent spoke about all the investments that they have made in student safety and the Raptor safety systems to make sure that students are as safe as possible, the great relationships between the schools and the Oak Ridge Police Department. It's one of those things where I think we're in a time period where every parent worries when they send their kid to school. And I think the Oak Ridge school system has done everything possible to alleviate as many of those worries as they possibly can. And I really want to be a part of a board that's making such great strides in offering students every possibility that they can, whether that be the opportunity to be safe, the opportunity to be respected, the opportunity to do all of these programs and have just whatever future that they could envision for themselves, because they offer so many things for college-bound students, but also so many things for students that are not college-bound, to prep them for trade schools, to get their hands on these pieces of machinery that they can be certified to go into a national laboratory and work on and still be, productive members of their own community immediately after graduation, because they've gotten to see and work on these machines when they're 16, 17 years old. It blows my mind.
Students, I mean, the director of schools, one thing he said that absolutely blew my mind is that they've got students who could fly over the school before they could actually drive to school.
Yes, you can get your pilot's license.
Yes. I mean, just the fact that those programs exist for these students and those opportunities.
We thought it was a really big deal when my high school got a band after I graduated. So It really shows how much of a priority the kids of Oak Ridge are to the community. And I think that they do an excellent job of equipping them to just see what is possible. And I think that we all, all we can hope for is to keep growing and building on that. And that's one of the things that I really am excited about with this particular campaign. I think, like I told you, I had a lot of frustrations when it came to the state legislature, and I was looking for a way to really kind of channel that frustration into action. But it is so exciting to get to run for an office where you're not frustrated, you're not angry about something, and you're not running because you want to make this big change and you feel this strong need to make your voice be heard and make other people understand what's wrong. I'm getting to campaign on look at what's right, and let's keep building on that, and let's keep growing that. I mean, Oak Ridge is an absolute leader in academic excellence, and they have a stellar reputation. They have fabulous teacher retention. They were implementing a starting teacher salary before the state legislature ever caught up and said, hey, we should make this amount mandatory. They're ahead on everything. And I want to be a part of helping that grow and making sure that we stay ahead, that we keep the best teachers, that we are offering the best programs, and that our students are just continuing to be afforded even more opportunities.
Well, and let's switch gears. You mentioned campaigning. So this is the first time that Oak Ridge Board of Education has actually been partisan. I know you've had some questions about that.
So when I decided to run, I did not even know that this was a partisan race until I got looking into the paperwork and what you have to do to run. And they asked, for you to declare a party. So I know I came to you and I was like, what is happening here? Like, what are we doing? So do you want to share with everyone kind of how this came to be a partisan race in the first place?
Absolutely. So in 2021, the state legislative body actually passed a law that made school board races partisan. In this last election cycle was, the first time the election could be partisan. The two candidates that ran did decide to run as independents. And then this year came, being on the executive body for the Anderson County Democratic Party, we had a vote, and we actually decided that we were not going to jump in and make this race partisan. We went back and forth about that. It's local politics. People have different opinions about, running in a partisan fashion for it. And then we found out that paperwork was drawn for a Republican primary. So at that point, it was too late for us to have a Democratic primary. But we did end up caucusing for two candidates. So we've actually got across the board, we've got 6 candidates for this race. There's 2 Republicans, 2 independents, and yourself and another Democratic candidate.
Mm-hmm. And that was probably one of the things that I struggled with the most was, should I run as a Democrat or should I run as an independent? On the one hand, running as an independent felt like it was a little bit of, I'm not trying to bring politics into this. But the more I thought about it and the more research that I did into it, it was one of those things where the benefits of running under a party banner were pretty significant. On the one hand, the resources that are provided are so helpful. You get access to an office space to be able to, house your yard signs and to go and sit down and write postcards and letters. And you have people who volunteer to do canvassing for you. You can have canvassers that are canvassing for other candidates that can canvass for you simultaneously with that and hand out your information. So there's a lot of benefit to be gained from some of those resources. The other thing for me is I am a little bit newer to the Oak Ridge community. My husband and I moved here in 2021. And we actually moved here because of the schools. When we found out that when we were trying to decide where we were going to buy a house, When we found out that they were building a subdivision and we would be zoned for the Oak Ridge schools, we said yes immediately. And we were one of the first 15 homes in this new subdivision, which was really awesome. And, but by not, I don't work in the lab and I'm not a teacher. So having only been here for going on 3 years now, I don't have the name recognition that, some of these other people that are running possibly do. And if someone doesn't know me, unless they are willing to join these socials or do the research to look up what do I stand for, what do I represent, when it comes down to running under a party, I think having that letter D next to my name on the ballot, if nothing else, I'm hoping that people, based on the way that the polarizing politics have sat here recently in the state of Tennessee, I hope people see that D next to my name and they think she cares about student safety. She cares about public education. She supports teachers and she supports librarians. And I think that letter can encompass that for people who maybe don't branch out and do as much of the research into the candidates. They might walk into that booth fully prepared to vote strongly for a president or, a state representative or their congressman. And then when they get to that down ballot, maybe they haven't done as much research on their local candidates. So I'm hoping that will at least encompass a portion of my values to anyone who doesn't know me.
And everything you listed, I mean, politics is local, whether we like it or not. Everything happens at the local level, is reflective of our values and reflective of parties that we support. And, again, you're right. Everything that we've seen recently with some of the, attacks on local institutions definitely line up with that.
And I think it's important too for my kids to see me running to be engaged in public service. I want them to see that if you have frustrations, these are the actions you take and you try to channel that in ways that are productive. And I also want them to see, that actions matter. Don't just sit and complain if you're not willing to do something about it. And not everyone has the ability to do as much as run for office. Running for office is hard. It's one thing that requires a lot of time commitment. It requires the ability to fundraise. And it's not a job of calling a servitude, whatever. It's not a position that is set up well for parents who work full time or are raising young children. It takes a supportive village around you. It takes a supportive spouse or someone who can help with your kids and their extracurriculars. It takes a job that has the flexibility to allow you to do things like a 4:30 podcast to talk about things and, you're not having to work right up till 5:00. And I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I have a job that has a good deal of flexibility that I can commit time to doing some of these things. And I have a very supportive husband so that I can, commit time to things knowing that my kids are cared for and supported and have someone that is there, on the occasions that I can't be. So I think that, the more moms and the more parents of young children that we can get to have voices on boards and in districts, the better represented we will all be. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, you brought that back to your kids. And I mean, that's exactly in talking about this before you made the decision to run, talking about the time commitment and talking about, your kids' future. I mean, that at least from the outside, that's been what it, the reason that I think you've stepped up to the plate on this.
Yeah. And I think, I think there's a lot of people that might say, well, your kids are in Knox County. Why are you invested in the Oak Ridge school system? Well, by the time this election is in 2024, before that first term would be up, my toddler will be in the Oak Ridge school system. So, this is happening now. And this is something where I don't want to be reactive later. I want to be proactive. I want to be involved in my kids' education. But I also don't want to wait until, they've graduated. I don't want to wait until I've retired. I want to do it now. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. And the more that I get to know the Oak Ridge school system, the more that I really think that I can contribute a voice that's missing. And also because Oak Ridge already is so incredible with the programs that are in place and the things that they are doing, it really allows for a lot of opportunity to drill down and look at what are some things that we can study about improvements that could be made that aren't completely having to overhaul a system. You're not having to focus on these huge problems that are just glaring and everybody's frustrated about, and you have parents that are upset. You've got a school system that has invested in its children and parents who are supportive and who love their school system. So, whereas you may have some school systems that are worried about how are they finding staffing to teach their kids and what are they doing about bus drivers and how are they going to handle the students that, need these summer school programs. Oak Ridge, we're over here going, I wonder what additional grants we could get to maybe fund this or that. I wonder what other programs we could offer at the high school for maybe students that, want to do something more in the arts, or like the ability to focus on things that are not these egregious, glaring things that need fix, just gives you so much room to breathe and focus on the small things that can make a little bit of a difference. And I know that they have done an excellent job with their third grade retention students, at making sure that they're hitting benchmarks and being successful. And so, maybe that question is there a place where we could find more grants for the first and second grade reading programs where we could continue to build on that? And I think having the freedom to focus on these small things is such a blessing. It's something that it's also something that you want someone who's running for this office to be aware of. You want someone who maybe knows about a reading recovery program or different things that are offered versus someone who's just running because, they don't like the way this thing is done, or because, they have a singular issue focus that they're running to overhaul. So I think that I'm level-headed enough and also versed enough in the school system and in education to bring a lot to the table on that. So, in other news, though, we do have our website up and running. It is voteacraven.com. And we've got some really awesome pages put together. So if you want to learn more about my campaign, if you want to learn more about my vision, if you want to learn more about me and my family, you can visit voteacraven.com/donate to donate if this is a message you think is worth sharing. And we're going to be doing some really great programs on Fridays going forward with this too. I think we're going to, no, go ahead.
I don't think we got into that to begin with. Definitely the format of the show every Friday, 4:30 to 5:30. Really exciting. We've got some guests that are going to be popping on that we're excited to make those announcements about.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have a chance to get to know some more people in the community, maybe some people at the state level. We've got some contacts to call to see who we can get to join us on Fridays at 4:30. I think our chances of talking with some state reps might be a little better now that the session has officially ended as of last night. But I think we've got some people that will be excellent resources for things that are happening at the local level, at the state level, and also just informational. I think a lot of people would like to know, how do I know where to vote? Can I vote for you? Disclaimer, if you are zoned for Oak Ridge schools, you can vote for me, and I would appreciate your vote on November 5th. But yeah, we've got some great programming coming up, and I'm really excited about it. So Vote Talks is going to be a weekly thing from now until Election Day.
Y'all, thanks so much for stopping by.
See you guys.